Who are the people we'd love to kick out of society? Let's find out. Starting with number 6, a few loose screws. Video footage caught Acklynn Byamugisha allegedly attempting to go after 2 men with a screwdriver after a car crash. Apparently, she's got a couple screws loose. Oop. The accident happened in the early hours of the morning in Miami. Footage showed Byamugisha's black BMW stopped on the road, partially blocking the right lane. Then, a white Toyota RAV4 collided with the vehicle, hitting the back of Byamugisha's BMW. So, the father of the Toyota driver shows up to help his son. But for some reason, Byamugisha claimed the father yelled at her before grabbing her and pulling her hair. Whether he did or not is up for debate. But whatever happened, it caused Byamugisha to reach into the Toyota and grab a screwdriver and a bottle of Windex, spraying it at the father and son's faces, and not in a helpful way to clean their eyeballs. She was mad. Then she charged towards them with the screwdriver and really tried going after them. Byamugisha's friend attempted to calm her down by walking her away from the scene, but as it turned out, it wasn't very effective, as she started screaming at him for stopping her. Byamugisha's former co-workers were shocked by the incident and couldn't believe she could get so angry. After watching the meltdown on video, it was nearly impossible to believe she was the same woman with 2 healthcare master's degrees from the University of Miami. Her LinkedIn profile shows she spent most of her career in healthcare and public service as well. However, her Instagram posts and OnlyFans profile are anything but professional. According to her records, she was cited 3 times in the past for traffic infractions and flaunted her traffic tickets. She explained in an Instagram post that the charges were dropped, but it's hard to know if she was telling the truth. It sounds to us like Acklynn got sucked into the dark side of life in Miami, and judging from her IG and OF posts, she's basically throwing away all that work she did getting her 2 master's degrees. At least she has 2 masters to fall back on when her OF career inevitably fails. Number 5, inappropriate contact. New Jersey teacher Julie Rizzitello resigned from her position after accusations of inappropriate behavior with a student. Rizzitello taught 9th grade SAT prep and English, having been hired by Wall Township Public Schools in 2013. 36-year-old Rizzitello had multiple intimate encounters with an 18-year-old student. They met in his car, and she sent him numerous scandalous photos. She might have thought her actions were going unnoticed, but in July of 2024, she realized that the authorities were onto her. So Rizzitello contacted the student and told him to delete all their communication on his phone. But someone from the school system where Rizzitello taught contacted the local township detective bureau to report a possible inappropriate intimate relationship between the teacher and her former student, and she was arrested the following day. The complaint said that the pair's relationship started in April 2024 with Rizzitello's inappropriate advances towards the victim. Things had escalated into even more intimate relations by the end of May. The victim later told police they had intimate moments on numerous occasions. He allowed law enforcement to check his cell phone, and officers discovered all of the conversations the teacher and former student had and the risque pictures Rizzitello sent him. He admitted discussing the relationship with several friends, some of whom came forward as witnesses to detail their knowledge of Rizzitello's actions. According to criminal complaints, the victim, who was a former student at the high school where she taught, was between the ages of 18 and 22 when the crimes occurred. Although he was a legal adult when the relationship started, it was considered a crime because of Rizzitello's status as a teacher. This means that, according to the law, Rizzitello had disciplinary or supervisory power over the victim. As of the release of this video, Rizzitello is still awaiting trial. Let us know in the comments section whether or not you feel the case would be different if the student was 17 years and 10 months old. Number 4, unsolicited milkshake. Model Victoria Thomas Bowen threw a milkshake at controversial British politician Nigel Farage, known for leading UKIP and the Brexit Party, and for a strong advocacy of the UK's departure from the EU. Now, Thomas Bowen is using her newfound fame to promote her OnlyFans page. Because, of course she is. Farage was leaving a pub when the incident occurred. In the dramatic footage, Thomas Bowen pushes past the crowd gathered around him to fling her McDonald's banana smoothie at the controversial public public figure. In response, Farage posted a video on X with the caption, "My milkshake brings all the people to the rally." The incident happened in Thomas Bowen's hometown of Clacton, Essex, which Farage previously called Britain's most patriotic town, but many of the town's residents weren't happy he was there. Thomas Bowen explained that Farage didn't represent anything she believed in or anyone else she knew from the area. Thomas Bowen previously voiced her support for Farage's political rival, Jeremy Corbyn, on Facebook and called for people to boycott Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee. However, her family's politics were better aligned with Farage's, and they were extremely upset with her actions. However, others disagreed, with many praising her online for her actions. As a follow-up to the incident, she posted a provocative picture of herself dressed in underwear and sports socks, along with a link to her OnlyFans website and the words to the song Milkshake. Farage later said that the milkshake incident freaked him out because he didn't know what had been thrown at him when it hit his face, which is understandable. It was similar to a 2019 incident when another protester threw a drink at him, and the politician claimed he was dealing with these situations because of the efforts he made to meet the public. It's weird that we live in a time where anytime there's a large gathering of people, there's always someone interested in trying to self-promote, right? Like, there's always some idiot TikToker somewhere trying to pull a prank to get views, or some chick trying to promote her OnlyFans by acting like a fool. It happens so often that it's almost normal. Number 3. Quitting like a boss. Texas security guard Percy Payne quit his job after a heated argument with his boss. Typically, these types of conversations where someone quits after an argument happen behind closed doors. This one happened on live TV. Payne was stationed at a private underground garage in Austin. One day, during his shift, he encountered two young guys on scooters trying to break into his car. The two suspects allegedly broke into the garage through a stuck-open door. Payne noticed the pair scooting around and followed them, finding them standing near his vehicle. When he caught up to them, one of the suspects was at the vehicle's driver's door, and the other was keeping a lookout. When they spotted Payne, the two young men ran toward a security gate before one of them tried to run the security guard over with his scooter. That's when the situation escalated. One of the guys pulled a screwdriver from his pocket and then went after Payne. So, rather than risk injury, Payne just let them go, which was the right move. After the guy fled, Payne called 911 and told the dispatcher he needed a police officer to come out to the scene. However, despite explaining that he had just been in a dangerous confrontation, the dispatcher refused to send police since suspects didn't actually steal anything. So Payne hung up and called 911 again. This time, he spoke to a different dispatcher who was far more sympathetic and apologized. A police officer arrived on the scene and said the case should have been an emergency case as the department considered the incident severe. Payne somehow ended up talking about the incident during a live television interview. Apparently, someone called the local news. Payne's manager then confronted him about speaking on camera while he was on the clock, which seems like a really weird time to take a stand on something like that. But whatever. Although the supervisor expressed sympathy for what happened to Payne, they were more interested in explaining to him that he wasn't allowed to do interviews in his work uniform. Live on TV really isn't the time to enforce some work policy, right? But as the cameras rolled, the supervisor demanded that Payne remove his uniform. Of course, Payne refused, explaining that the interview was the only way for him to get his story out there. However, the confrontation ended with Payne's supervisor telling him the entire incident was his fault, making it clear that all they cared about was the potential bad press they would get from the interview. So Payne took off his work shirt, effectively quitting. Luckily, this guy named Michael Carroll saw the interview, was disgusted by the supervisor's behavior, and hired Payne right away to work in his firearms shop. So at least there's a bit of a happy ending. We're not totally sure why this interview was going to give the company bad press, though. It seems like a security guard preventing damage and theft would bring good press, right? The only bad press would come from the supervisor flipping out on live TV. Number 2. Vehicular Tragedy. Video captured drunk driver Stephen Schwally slamming into a nail salon, tragically ending 4 lives and injuring 9 others. The footage showed Schwally's minivan flying over a curb, catching air, then slamming at full speed into Hawaii Nail and Spa, a Long Island nail salon. 4 people lost their lives as a result, including off-duty NYPD cop Emilia Renhack, as well as Jianqi Chen, Yan Zhu, and Macy Zhang. A 12-year-old girl was also among the 9 people injured in the crash. Schwally had a previous DUI charge from 2013 where he struck a mailbox and fled the scene. While the incident was far less destructive, he still caught law enforcement's attention. When officers arrived at the scene, they found him still in the driver's seat. While the keys were in the ignition and the engine was turned on, Schwally was asleep. The outrageous thing about this, an outrageous thing about this, since there were a lot of things wrong with this situation, was that some random guy left a neighboring business seconds before the vehicle raced past him, hitting the salon. So he had a front row view of the damage caused by the accident, but apparently couldn't be bothered with it, so he just hopped in his car and left, which is weird, right? The guy didn't even call 911, which is the absolute least he could have done without being inconvenienced. Fortunately, other decent people from the neighboring store ran outside to help after hearing the crash and people screaming, which could be heard in the video clip. Following the July 2024 incident, Schwally was arraigned on driving while intoxicated charges and held on $1 million bail, and at the time of this video is waiting for his court appearance. He admitted to officers that he downed 18 beers in the hours leading up to the fatal crash. We know we say this a lot, but it happens a lot. We need far stiffer penalties for drinking and driving. 4 people lost their lives because Stephen Schwally decided to drink 18 beers and get behind the wheel. Hopefully he gets locked up for a long time. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay right here to find out how this guy was able to fool the DC government with this device. Number 1. The Honey Trap. Letitia Nicola allegedly kidnapped and robbed people who she lured in on dating apps. Apparently, these days, no one can safely date anyone else, right? Helped by her boyfriend, Pedro Goncalves, Nicola set up multiple profiles on dating sites. After matching with her victims online, she arranged to meet them in person at seemingly safe spots. Once the Brazilian couple had their targets right where they wanted them, gang members would come and rob and abduct their lovelorn victims. Nicolao's ex-boyfriend, Michael Rodriguez, ran the gang, whose members went after targets unless they wired money to their accounts through Brazil's version of Venmo, Pix. Although Nicolao and Rodriguez split up, she still convinced her current boyfriend, Goncalves, to join her ex-partner's gang. The couple used the stolen money to go on elaborate shopping trips, vacations to places such as Dubai and Cancun, and on romantic dinners. Fortunately, Nicolao's online activities finally caught the police's attention. In March of 2023, when she had 20 social media profiles, law enforcement arrested her alongside Rodriguez, Goncalves, and several other suspects. She was placed under house arrest, but that didn't slow down her criminal activity. Nicolao was arrested again in February of 2024 for violating the conditions of her house arrest by continuing to target and lure victims through dating apps, but her lawyer managed to get her released. Then, in June of 2024, Sao Paulo civil police got another arrest warrant and searched the home of Nicolao, shared with Goncalves, where they seized several cell phones, cash, a calculator, and a firearm. The items provided evidence that the couple continued to run their operation, leading to their arrest. The pair were finally placed behind bars. What are some of just the dumbest crimes? Well, let's find out, starting with Number 6. Twice the miles, twice the smiles. Convicted felon Lawrence Harge entered into a contract with the DC government after he claimed he invented a way to double the range of electric vehicles. Harge created a cell phone-sized box that he claimed would increase electric vehicle range by over 75%. DC's Department of Public Works was looking for new technology to extend its vehicles' lifespans and keep maintenance costs down, so this tech caught their attention. Although experts said that the self-proclaimed inventor's claims were impossible, the department signed a $680,000 contract with Harge's company, EV Technology LLC. The department referred to the project as the Black Box Technology Pilot Program, which called for the installation of 40 of the black boxes into the parking enforcement's fleet of Chevrolet Bolt electric vehicles. The contract worked out to $14,000 a vehicle, which was roughly half of the retail value of a Chevy Bolt. That's a lot of wasted money since the department's vehicles traveled less than 25 miles per day anyway. EV Technology LLC claimed in the contract that its battery attachment technology would regenerate itself and revolutionize electric vehicle batteries. Industry experts spoke out against the company's bold claims, especially when the largest automakers in the world were spending billions of dollars on research to try and engineer even single percentage increases in EV ranges. Nathan Baca from WUSA9 conducted an investigation with the help of Paul Albertus, Associate Director of the Maryland Energy Innovation Institute. Paul said that technologies that could boost an EV's battery pack to something significantly above the 200-mile standard range didn't exist yet. The amount of energy that a battery could store was just too limited for Harge's invention to work, and that to re-energize a battery would involve breaking it open rather than wiring a box in the way that Harge's invention did. Baca reached out to General Motors, the makers of the Chevy Bolts, who wrote in a formal statement that they weren't involved in the project or unaware of the technology that Harge was using. Despite WUSA-9's findings about Harge's bogus product, the inventor claimed in 2022 that the University of Michigan notified him that he was the perfect candidate for a Nobel Prize, and they planned to nominate him for the award. WUSA reached out to a university spokesperson who said that nobody at the University of Michigan was familiar with Harge. In 2001, Lawrence Harge got a 26-year prison sentence after he was found guilty of selling unregistered securities from Mississippi. The convicted felon served 5 years in prison and attempted to expunge his criminal record in 2021. Although he received a temporary felony expungement, a judge rescinded it after allegations that Harge repaid the people he defrauded in 2001 with business investors' money. The D.C. Office of Contracts and Procurement claimed to have no idea about Harge's criminal past until WUSA-9 told them, which is like, why? That's a lot of money to just hand someone you know nothing about. Harge posted a video on Facebook where he bragged about working with the D.C. government on 40 cars, and the department wanted to add his device to thousands more vehicles. 6 weeks after learning the truth about Harge, the D.C. government terminated their contract over violations of terms of the agreement and said they wouldn't pay any money. It was fairly easy for Baca and his team to debunk Harge's claims, which makes you wonder why it was so hard for the D.C. government. So who's the bigger moron? The guy making absurd claims that could easily be discovered, or the government who believed it without even fact-checking? We know the answer, but shout it out in the comments below. Number 5. Just for looks. Instagram influencer Yulia Pugachev tricked out her Dodge Charger to look like a police car. Pugachev, who has 1.8 million Instagram followers, turned her vehicle into a cop car, complete with lights and sirens. She painted the Dodge Charger with the same color as the Florida Highway Patrol vehicle's colors and a decal resembling a police badge on the side of the vehicle. The Highway Patrol was conducting an unrelated traffic stop in Miami when it noticed what appeared to be an official law enforcement vehicle speeding past. While the vehicle had an identical paint job to a Highway Patrol cruiser and an emergency siren and light bar, officers quickly spotted that it was an imitation. So police pulled Pugachev over and she told them she was just test driving the vehicle. The influencer, who owned several car-related businesses with her husband, eventually admitted that she owned the car as part of her security service fleet. Pugachev was arrested and charged with imitating a Florida Highway Patrol vehicle's colors, misusing a dealer license plate, and failing to register a vehicle. She claimed to have fallen in love with the color scheme of Florida Highway Patrol vehicles and requested that a wrap business help her recreate the black and tan aesthetic. And okay, there's loads of people who've bought retired police cars and dressed them up to look like they did when they're in service. Many security services even attempt to make their cars look like they're with law enforcement, so this isn't automatically a crazy town thing. But what do you make of some random Instagram lady insisting that she just loves the look? We're not into profiling anyone here, but she probably doesn't look like most other people who own cop cars. What do you think? Was she up to no good? Or is she really a cop car nerd? Number 4. Everyone else is wrong. A Nebraska drunk driver called 911 to report that someone was driving on the wrong side of the road. The problem was that it was him. As the driver sped down the highway, he noticed that a vehicle was driving on the wrong side of the road. So he called the police to let them know that some idiot thinks they're James Bond. During the call, the driver then claimed another vehicle almost ran him off the road and had its brights on. Law enforcement arrived at the scene, and when they approached the driver, they could tell by his behavior that he was wasted. The police asked the man if he knew why they stopped him, and he said he realized that he had been driving on the wrong side of the road. He said that the reason for his reckless driving was that he had missed his exit. As a side note, reckless is kind of a weird term for driving dangerously, isn't it? It makes it sound like you're driving without wrecking. Yes, we know it's two different words, but anyway, the guy admitted that he was the one that made the original 911 call, and it turned out that his blood alcohol level was over 2 times the legal limit. He arrested the guy, and thankfully, no one was injured. It's a funny story, but seriously, someone could have lost their life. Head-on collisions are no joke. Just ask Ed Truck. But seriously, please drink responsibly. Everyone's lives have been touched by the actions of a drunk driver at one point or another, and it's totally avoidable. Number 3. Check the schedules. Trainee doctor Tracy Landu claimed £9,865 in sick pay from Britain's National Health Service while working at two different hospitals. Landu's scam occurred over 5 months in 2020 while she worked as a GP specialty trainee at St. Helens and Knowsley teaching hospitals. She had told her employer that she was ill and had to take a leave of absence. During the time when she was supposed to be fighting an undisclosed illness, she worked 8 to 13-hour shifts for United Lincolnshire Hospitals, located 160 miles from her original hospital. When officials confronted her about working while she was on sick leave, she denied their accusations. However, it was so easily provable that her partner even warned her that she'd lose her job if she didn't stop the scam. It was inevitable that Dr. Landu would be discovered working during her sick leave, and hospital officials did eventually uncover her lies. The General Medical Council launched a formal investigation into Landu's sick pay claims. The disgraced doctor said that she didn't think she was on official sick leave at the time, despite the hospital's HR staff asking for a doctor's note. She later confessed to lying to an HR official who recorded that Landu denied working while claiming the money. During the hearing, the counsel for the General Medical Council said that Landu's misconduct was a serious case of dishonesty and that she'd had the opportunity to stop what she was doing but didn't. The Medical Practitioners Tribunal Service found her guilty of serious professional misconduct and suspended the trainee doctor for 9 months. The tribunal believed that Landu was struggling in her personal life, which could have influenced her conduct and contributed to her behavior. Landu agreed to repay the money that she took and formally apologized for her actions. And why, Dr. Landu, would you run a scam like this? It's weird. You're a doctor, so you put in a lot of work towards your very expensive education, and you risked it all. You were set to make good money, but instead, you scammed and worked while you were scamming. It's not even like you were making that much money to make the risk worth it. And you did it during the pandemic when you were needed the most. Paging Dr. Moron to the unemployment line. Number 2. Technology wins. When thieves stole Jay Robinson's 2 cars from his driveway, he used Google Earth to track them down. Robinson went to bed on a Thursday night with his Volkswagen Golf and Seat Attica in his driveway and awoke the following day to find they were gone. Burglars had crept into his home during the night and snatched the keys while he was sleeping. The burglars later advertised the seat for sale on Snapchat. A friend told Robinson about the scam, so he decided to reach out to them personally. Robinson asked the burglars to return the vehicles, but they said they would only give it back if he paid them $2,500. The thieves sent him a blurry picture of the vehicle's front seat to prove they still had both cars. They thought the picture would convince Robinson to pay the ransom. Instead, it helped him locate the stolen vehicles. Robinson smartly used Google Earth to pinpoint the car's location, which was in a neighborhood 6 miles from his home. Given the way technology is these days, it was pretty clever of him to convince the thieves to send a picture. Robinson arrived at the location and found his car sitting there. He used his keys to unlock the vehicle, but instead of driving away, he reported it to the police. Although law enforcement quickly responded, they insisted on taking the vehicle in for forensic examination rather than immediately giving it back to Robinson. He was devastated and posted the details of the theft on social media, as well as his disappointment in the way the police handled the case. Since they failed to find his other vehicle, the Volkswagen Golf, Robinson was left without a vehicle. He said that if he hadn't reported the burglary to the police, he could have driven away with his car that day. Number 1. Check this out. Armed robber Andrew Hennels threatened grocery store employees after bragging on Facebook that he was going to rob the store. Because genius! Hennels went into Tesco, a grocery store chain in the UK, less than 15 minutes after he made the Facebook post. He brandished a knife and demanded that the cashiers empty their registers. Law enforcement received an emergency call from the supermarket chain and rushed to the scene while Hennels stole a car from a retired couple who had stopped to use the ATM near the store. Officers recovered a knife at the scene and quickly located their suspect at a nearby pub with roughly $500 of stolen money in his pocket. The police arrested Hennels and took him into custody, where a judge requested up-to-date information on Hennels' mental state before proceeding to understand the reason behind his actions. Authorities found that earlier on the day of the robbery, Hennels shared a picture of the knife he used. During his trial, the prosecution discussed the trauma that the supermarket employees experienced and the number of officers who rushed to the scene after receiving the the emergency call. While the court struggled to decipher Hanels' motive, his Facebook activity helped to confirm that he was guilty of the armed robbery. The judge deemed Hanels to be a high risk to society and sentenced him to 4 years in prison. So Hanels, of sound body and mind, got himself 4 years in the clink for less than $1,000 because he bragged about his crime before he committed it? With that kind of brain power, we suspect he was going to end up there eventually. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather have to give up for the rest of your life, liquor or beer.